What is going on, guys? Cody here to give my NFL mid-season grades. I did this video a couple weeks ago when we were a quarter of the way through the season, and now we kind of have more of a clearer view of what teams are. So we're going to be re-ranking them and seeing if anyone's moved up or moved down. Let's start things off with this tier list. You can see right here we got the Super Bowl favorites. You got the Super Bowl contenders, playoff teams, potential wildcard teams, missing the playoffs, mediocre at best, young and intriguing, and number one contention. And now the New Orleans Saints are a potential wildcard team just because that NFC South is so wide open. It's going to come down between either them, the Falcons, or the Buccaneers. The Saints, their issue is just their offense is really inconsistent. Derek Carr really hasn't looked that good. He hasn't been like the worst in the league, but he could be better. Alvin Kamara still needs to get going. The Saints, they're just inconsistent. I think a lot of it has to do with their coaching, but they are definitely in the hunt for that division. The Dolphins are still Super Bowl favorites, but I think they got to go as contenders for right now. Because they still haven't beat a team that has an above 500 record. It's been over a year since they beat a team that had a winning record, and they just lost to the Chiefs, who are definitely a favorite. So the Dolphins are just contenders right now. Now, if they start beating like really good teams, then they can go back up to Super Bowl favorites, but for now they're just contenders. But this team right here, the Baltimore Ravens, they are a Super Bowl favorite. I think the game against the Cardinals a few weeks ago was more of them playing down the competition, but when they play like those really good teams like Seattle and Detroit, they've stomped them, and Lamar Jackson's looking really good. That offense looks like it's starting to click. Cincinnati Bengals, I'm not ready to put them at Super Bowl contenders just yet, but I mean, they've rebounded after the horrible start they had for the second year in a row. Joe Burrow looks like he's gotten healthy. Looks like that calf has started to heal up. Yeah, the Bengals are definitely a good team. It's just, man, they got to stop starting flat every year. If they start getting more wins under their belts, they'll definitely be contenders. The Broncos are definitely number one pick contention. They are bad, man. I know they just had a big win over the Chiefs, but I think that was just more the Chiefs just not showing up than the Broncos being good. The Broncos are not a good team. Same with the New York Giants. They are a number one pick contender, especially now that Daniel Jones is hurt. Even though he sucks, he's better than Tommy DeVito or whatever his name is. Yeah, the Giants, they started off the season horrible, and they haven't really rebounded since. Now the Vikings, I'm having them as a missing the playoffs team right now. That could change here in a few weeks. I know Josh Dobbs just had a really big win for them, but I think that's more because Arthur Smith's an idiot than the Vikings being good. The Vikings could definitely sneak into the playoffs. It just depends how Josh Dobbs clicks with Justin Jefferson. And the Vikings defense is starting to step up, so This could definitely change here in a few weeks, but for now I have them on the outside looking in just because they definitely aren't going to win the division from Detroit, and we don't know how the wild card picture is going to shape up for the last spot because the Seahawks and the Cowboys are definitely going to get the 5 and 6 seed, so the Vikings are going to have to scrap for that 7th seed. LA Rams, they're mediocre at best. They are just, it's a repeat of last year where it looks like everyone's going to get hurt and they're just going to mail it in for the rest of the season. Yeah, the Rams, they bought that Super Bowl basically, and now they're kind of paying for it. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, definitely a potential wild card team. Even though they just lost to the Texans, their offense still looks good. Their running game is just horrible, man. They got to get it going. And I don't know, because their offensive line is phenomenal when it comes to pass protecting, but getting the running game going, they just can't do it. I mean, Rachaad White had a really good game against the Texans, but that was just kind of like that's not how it's been every week so far this season. Usually their running game, they're getting 30 or 40 yards. They need to start getting 120, and then they'd really be in contention for the playoffs because then their offense would be unstoppable. Plus, they got to get another weapon to step up other than Mike Evans because they got the talent for it. The Lions, they're not Super Bowl favorites yet, but they're contenders. They're definitely a strong contender to get to the NFC Championship. It's just they just got the crap kicked out of them by Baltimore, so they definitely have some stuff that they need to reevaluate. But the Lions are good. They have a lot of talent, so they're definitely a contender. They're probably the second best team in the NFC next to the Eagles. Bears, definitely number one pick contender. There's really no need to explain that. The Bears are just a bad team. 49ers, even though they're on a bad skid right now, I think a lot of it just has to do with injuries. They are still my Super Bowl favorite to come out the NFC. Like I said, they're probably it goes Eagles, Lions, then 49ers right now, but that can change if the 49ers can get it together and get healthy. And I think them coming off a bye week, this was the best time ever for them to get a bye week so they can get healthy and get their problems figured out with the offense. Now, if Christian McCaffrey gets hurt, though, they're screwed. But the 49ers, their defense is phenomenal, and they just picked up Chase Young. So I don't see how you can argue for them to not be a favorite. But if you have an opinion about them not being a favorite, let me know about it, man. Eagles definitely a Super Bowl favorite. Even after losing the Super Bowl, they, usually a team that loses the Super Bowl, they kind of have a hangover and then they don't have a good year afterwards. That's not the case with the Eagles. They still have the best record in the NFL. The Raiders, I'm going to put them at mediocre at best because they're not a young team, but they're definitely intriguing, especially now that Josh McDumbass is out of town and this, what's his name, Antonio Pierce, the interim head coach, he looks like he's going to light a fire under them. Now, hopefully the Raiders don't repeat their past mistake because they really should have kept Rich Bisaccia after they fired John Gruden because Bisaccia took them to the playoffs, and that was a team that had a lot of adversity with Henry Ruggs and that whole incident and that one first-round pick that, what did he do, show a gun on Instagram Live? I can't remember. But that dude, that team had a lot going against it, and Rich Bisaccia took them to the playoffs. I don't think the Raiders are going to be a playoff team, but they're definitely intriguing now that they have a new coach and a new voice. And Aiden O'Connell, I think he's got a lot of promise. The Packers are young and intriguing. They definitely aren't going to make the playoffs. And Jordan Love, he started off the season hot. I thought he was going to be something special, but now they've kind of fell off. They just picked up a win, but that was against the LA Rams team that was playing their backup quarterback. The Packers have the pieces right now to get a good young team, and then if they can build through the draft, they're going to be really intriguing, and they'll be back in the playoffs here in a few years. It's just not going to be this year and probably won't be next year, but they're definitely an intriguing team. Washington Commanders, same thing. Once they get a new voice in the locker room after Ron Rivera, I think, leaves and maybe Eric Bieniemy replaces him as coach, the Washington Commanders are definitely a young and intriguing team. Sam Howell, I think, has a lot of promise. Yeah, the same thing with the Packers. The Commanders aren't going to make the playoffs, but they got the good building blocks to definitely be a contender in the NFC East because Dallas and Philly aren't going to be good forever, The Cardinals are number one pick contention right now, but they could definitely be upgraded to young and intriguing here in a few weeks when I do the Q3 power rankings. It depends whenever Kyler Murray gets back and what spark that provides to the team. They're a lot better than what their record indicates they are. I know, only having one win isn't a good thing, but the Cardinals are way better than they're given credit for. The Steelers, just because of their record, they have to go in potential wild card. They're really more young and intriguing. It's just Matt Canada is such a freaking doofus, man. That's their problem, really. But Mike Tomlin's such a great coach that he's going to will them to wins, and that's kind of what they've done throughout this season. It's all because of Mike Tomlin's coaching, I believe, because Kenny Pickett, he becomes God mode in the fourth quarter, but any time other than that, he doesn't look that good. But their defense is still phenomenal. TJ Watt, I think, is probably going to win Defensive Player of the Year. So, yeah, they have to go into potential wild card just because of their record. And, they're in a good spot right now. It's just going to depend how they finish. I think Buffalo is a playoff team, definitely. I would put them in Super Bowl contenders, but ever since that game against Jacksonville, maybe even before that, their offense has just not been looking good. And I don't know what it is, but they got to get it figured out, man. Stephon Diggs looks like he wants out of there. Josh Allen, I think, is phenomenal, but he's also a turnover machine, and he's their best running game, really. So, Buffalo, I want to put them in contenders because they should be contenders, but I think I have to put them in playoff team. Atlanta Falcons, I think, are going to miss the playoffs because Arthur Smith sucks. He is not a good coach. I don't know what it is, but he does not know how to utilize his weapons. Look at Kyle Pitts. Look at Bijan Robinson. Look at all the talent the Falcons have, and they don't know how to use it. And I think a lot of that comes down to their coaching. Arthur Smith sucks, and I think he's going to cost them the playoffs, even though they're in a good spot right now. Like I said, that division's highly competitive between New Orleans, Tampa, and Atlanta, but Arthur Smith, I think, is the worst coach out of all three. Seattle Seahawks, even though they just got smacked around by Baltimore, they're still a playoff team. They're leading their division right now, I believe. The Seahawks aren't terrible or anything. Geno Smith just has his up and down games, but the Seahawks are a very good team, and they got a lot of firepower on that offense. Patriots, I don't think they're bad enough to be number one pick contention, but they're definitely mediocre. Mac Jones is terrible. Bill Belichick's kind of let the game pass him by. Yeah, the Patriots are just mediocre. I think they're going to pull it out late in the season, maybe have 5 or 6 wins. Browns, potential wild card team. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything nice about them. I don't like them. I don't like that they traded for Deshaun Watson. I don't like how they did Baker Mayfield. But they are good enough to be a potential wild card team. But other than that, that's all I'm going to say about the Browns. Texans are definitely young and intriguing. I mean, C.J. Stroud looks like a freaking monster. Just had the greatest game ever by any rookie quarterback. So, yeah, I think C.J. Stroud is that dude, and he's going to lead a strong, promising future for the Houston Texans. Not only that, but they got weapons around him, too, that are starting to step up. Noah Brown, Dalton Schultz, Tank Dell. Tank Dell and C.J. Stroud look like they're going to be a scary connection coming here in the next couple of years. Now, if they can just shore up that defense through the draft and get Dameon Pierce back to form, the Texans, I could easily see taking the AFC South here in a few years. Because Jacksonville will be their main competitor. I think the Titans are going to be in for a rebuild here soon, and I'll get into the Colts here in a little bit. Kansas City Chiefs, definitely Super Bowl contenders. It don't matter if Patrick Mahomes don't have nobody to throw to. It don't matter if he throws it to Travis Kelce 20 times a game. As long as they have Mahomes, they are going to be Super Bowl favorites. Dallas Cowboys, definitely a playoff team. Dak Prescott looks like he's starting to get more comfortable in Mike McCarthy's offense. It's just, man, their offensive line is horrible. A lot of the things that has kept the Cowboys in games is Dak Prescott and his scrambling ability. And I tell you what, if they don't shore up that right tackle spot, because Terrence Steele is horrible. He just gave up 3 or 4 sacks in that game against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Cowboys are going to be in trouble because they might be without a quarterback if they start letting Dak Prescott get smacked around like he's been getting smacked around. And Tony Pollard really needs to step up or else he ain't going to be playing in Dallas next year. But all that being said, they are still good enough to be a playoff team. They're not going to win the division. The Eagles have too far of a lead on them, but they're definitely either going to be the 5 or 6 seed. I mean, that game the week after Thanksgiving against the Seahawks is going to be a really big game deciding seeding. The Chargers fan that watches my videos and gets mad when I talk negative about the Chargers is going to be really mad because I think they're going to miss the playoffs because Brandon Staley, it's the same thing with the Falcons. Their coach is an idiot. Brandon Staley sucks. I mean, Justin Herbert has all the talent to be a top quarterback in the NFL. It's just the Chargers, they just can't get out of their own way. And I mean, could I see them making the playoffs? Maybe, but they ain't going to win the division with the Chiefs being in there. And I think the Raiders will play them tougher than the first time. I mean, they're better than the Broncos at least, but the AFC is so competitive that I don't see the Chargers getting a wild card spot. New York Jets are definitely young and intriguing. I think Zach Wilson, he's not looking good still, but he's better than what he's been the last 2 years. So Zach Wilson, I think, is starting to show some promise at least, and their defense is phenomenal. Breece Hall, he started off kind of slow this season. He looks like he's starting to get back to form. Yeah, the Jets are definitely young and intriguing, but the problem is how much of their future are they going to trade away because of Aaron Rodgers? Because the reports came out that they were trying to acquire Devontae Adams, and that's because Aaron Rodgers was telling them to. Like, they are young and intriguing right now, but they may not have the ability to get young here in a few years if they trade away a bunch of draft capital to try to make Rodgers happy. Because Rodgers isn't the future, he's just the now. He's not going to be there 2 years from now. So this could definitely change them being mediocre and not young, especially since Zach Wilson probably won't be the starter next year. But the Jets, they got a good thing going right now. I think they just need to play it smart and not let Aaron Rodgers boss them around. Carolina Panthers are definitely a number 1 pick contender. Only problem is they ain't going to have the number 1 pick because they traded their first rounder to Chicago. So the Panthers, man, they're a team where it's like, man, they look bad right now, and now they're not going to have the tools to get better. So they might be a number 1 pick contender for the next couple seasons because it's looking like they should have took C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young. Titans are mediocre at best. They're kind of young and intriguing because of Will Levis. I thought he was gonna suck, and through 2 games he's looked pretty good. But they're older at like skill positions like wide receiver and running back with DeAndre Hopkins and Derrick Henry. So they're definitely mediocre. I think the Titans are about to be in for a rebuild. Indianapolis is the definition of young and intriguing. Man, I wish Anthony Richardson wasn't hurt because he was looking phenomenal before he got hurt. Now, like, I think the AFC South is going to be how the NFC South is right now. The AFC South is going to be really competitive here in a couple years. So I think Houston's going to get better. Jacksonville's good right now, and the Colts, depending on how they handle Richardson. Now, if he ends up being like Andrew Luck, the Colts are screwed, where he's always going to get hurt, But if he can stay healthy, he's shown he's got the talent, and they got the best running back duo right now in the league with Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are definitely a playoff team. They got to get their offense figured out because sometimes they look sloppy, sometimes they look good. Like, the Jaguars they have a consistency issue right now, and they got to get it fixed. But everybody, that's the tier list. That's the video. Let me know what you guys think. If you disagree, let me know what your opinion is. Trainwreck Podcast episode 31 should be out later this week. We're going to have a lot to talk about with the Raiders and Cowboys games and WWE Crown Jewel, which was this past weekend. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're currently sitting at 525 subscribers. It's going to be a big push, but if we can get to 550 by the end of the year, I'll be very happy. I don't know. I said if we hit 500 by the end of the year, I would show off my Funko collection, which I did. If you guys have any suggestions for what we should do for 550 by the end of the year, let me know. Have a great day. Like the video, sub to the channel. I'll see you next time.